let's go ahead and move on here to our predictions. We're going to try to gaze into the future, open up and look into our crystal ball to predict each team's first loss. Now, this is obviously not going to be easy. We may get them right, we may get them wrong. We'll find out in 100 some days, right, when the season starts. But it's still fun to kind of look at kind of what our expectations are and have fun in predicting when those first losses are going to be. So we got this breakdown here for you. We're just going to go division by division. Okay. And so if you got your notes and stuff pulled up, we'll go ahead and start with the AFC North. So Chase, give me your AFC North teams, their first losses.
Perfect. AFC North. All right. I've got Cincinnati. Their first loss is going to be week 8 at the 49ers. They're going to start off hot and then get bounced week 8 at the 49ers. Then we've got Cleveland. I think their first loss is going to be week 1 versus the Bengals. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up, week 1 against the 49ers. And then to finish it out, you have Baltimore, right? The Ravens. And I think their first loss will be week 2 versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
All righty. So I went some different routes here. So let me give you mine. So I've got Bengals first loss week 1 at Cleveland.
Okay.
And so for 2 reasons, right? This is not Bengals hate. This is Bengals always seem to start off slow. And Joe Burrow is 1-4 against the Browns in his career.
Yes, he's not very good.
So he is, for whatever reason, right? He's just does not play well against the Browns. So the fact that this is week 1 in Cleveland, just due to all of that, is why I'm predicting that to be the first loss. And then for the Ravens, I've got them losing week 5 at the Steelers. I'm a little bit higher on the Steelers, I think, this upcoming year than most people are. But they always steal a game. Even when they've been bad recently, they always steal a game they shouldn't, right? Last year it was beating the Bucs. A year before it was, I'm not for sure. I don't remember who it was, but they just always steal a game that they shouldn't. And so I think they got to steal a game. And so I think this is the game that they're going to steal. I don't think people are going to expect them to win, but I like them to steal this game. For the Cleveland Browns, I got week 2 at the Steelers. They're going to come off a big win to start the season against the Bengals, but then go to Pittsburgh in prime time. And I think it's going to be too much. I'm not high on the Browns. And I think they get the week 1 just due to that matchup. But week 2 against the Steelers in prime time, they get their first loss. And then the Steelers is week 1 versus the 49ers. Same as you. 49ers are going to come in there and smoke them, and that'll be their first loss.
All right.
Let's go ahead and go to the AFC East with the Bills, Jets, Dolphins, and Pats. Take it away.
Yes. All right. So I've got Buffalo, their first loss, week 5, the London game against the Jaguars. I've got Miami's first loss, week 4 against the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo. I think that will be Miami's first loss. I've got the New England Patriots losing week 1 against the loser of the Super Bowl in the Philadelphia Eagles. And finally, the New York Jets. I have week 1 against the Bills. Just because we've talked about it, I think I've come around to maybe the Jets start a little slow. I think the Jets are a better team than the Bills. I really do. But, Aaron Rodgers has historically been recently pretty bad on week 1s. I know firsthand being a Packer fan. And Josh Allen has been historically really good on week 1, so I think that might be the Jets' first loss.
I'm with you there on Jets week 1 versus Bills. Literally same exact wording that you had. That reasoning was my exact reasoning. So I'm with you 100% there. For the Patriots, same week 1 versus Eagles. It's going to be Tom Brady's retirement party, but that's going to hype the crowd up. But it's not going to be enough for the Patriots to compete against the Eagles. No. So. The Dolphins, I had them losing week 7 at Eagles. I think it'll be a fun matchup, but it's going to be the Eagles in prime time at home. Got to take the Eagles in that one. And then the Bills is actually going to be week 4 versus the Dolphins. So, the Bills, The Bills have struggled to beat the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins almost beat them with Skylar Thompson in the playoffs this past year. So you can't tell me that the Dolphins can't compete against the Bills. And it's going to be this game, whereas the Bills would have liked this to be later in the season at home against Miami, but instead it's week 4. The weather's going to be perfect. If Tua's healthy, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle can feast there, and I like the Dolphins in that matchup as right now. So I like the Dolphins D better than the Bills right now, and so I'm going to
Sure.
take the Bills to take that L week 4 versus the Dolphins.
Yep. I understand that.
All righty, let's do the AFC South. Chase, what do you got?
AFC South. Jacksonville's up first, and I've got their first loss week 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's going to be a good game, but I don't think Trevor Lawrence is. I don't think that. Well, nothing but Trevor. I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars are up there against them yet. And then I've got Indy week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, even when the Colts were good, they always beat them. And now it's reversed where the Colts are going to have a little bit of a down year, but I think it'll be a fun game to watch. And then Houston, I've got week 1 against the Ravens. Houston's schedule is pretty brutal, honestly, when you look at it. And I don't expect them, even with CJ and Will Anderson coming, I don't expect them to be a very good team. Then I've got Tennessee. And Tennessee's first loss is going to be week 1 against the Saints. I think I am really, really low on the Titans compared to everyone else. I think the Titans might be a bottom team in the NFL this year.
I kid you not, I literally have the exact same thing.
Okay.
Literally the exact same thing, and for all the same reasons that you have. I'm with you on being. I'm with you. Well, at least when it comes to AFC South.
Yeah.
But that's just I'm with you. Yeah. So don't need to add much to that. I agree 100%. So let's go to the AFC West.
AFC West. And we'll start with the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think their first loss comes a week 4 at the hands of Aaron Rodgers. It's a Sunday night game. They get Aaron Rodgers plays really good Sunday night games. I'm betting all my chips on him. I finally want to see this matchup. That's what I'm rolling with. Then I've got the Chargers, and the Chargers, I think their first loss comes week 1 against the Dolphins. I think the Las Vegas Raiders loss comes week 1 against the Broncos. I'm not too high on the Broncos, but that defense is crazy good. They just keep adding talent, and I don't think Jimmy G is going to be the answer to beat that Broncos defense. And then we finish up with the Broncos, and I have them losing week 3 against the Dolphins.
Okay, again, pretty similar here. Same with the Raiders. I think week 1 versus the Broncos for the same reason. And the Broncos, I've got week 3 versus the Dolphins. Chargers, I had them losing week 1 versus the Dolphins. What I really like about the schedule makers, though, giving us this game is Chargers and Dolphins are historically teams that have bad injuries. So if this was going to be at mid-season or later year, both teams probably not at 100%. But the fact that it's week 1, both teams are at 100%, so we can get that full game at 100%, I think is fantastic. So good job, schedule makers, on scheduling this one. I think Herbert is the better quarterback, but I think the Dolphins are the better team. And so I think that the Dolphins will win that one. And then the Chiefs, this might get me in some hot water with some Chiefs fans. This is a take. It's going to be week 8 at Denver.
Ooh.
Now, the Broncos haven't beat the Chiefs since 2015. It has been almost a decade. It's freaking insane. Almost a decade. With the recent release of their kicker, there is now no active player on the Broncos team that have beat the Chiefs as a Bronco.
Wow.
None. That is how long the Chiefs have dominated the Broncos. When is that going to end? It's got to end at some point, right?
Yes.
And is this going to be the year? I don't know. But I just look at when this game is. We have 3 divisional games right in a row where we play Denver, then we play Chargers, and then we have to play Denver again. So I just don't know if the fact is that we have these 3 divisional games back to back to back like that, if that's going to maybe some affect things. And I'm just waiting just because it'll be my luck that it's since Sean Payton's here, they're going to get one win, at least maybe one win against the Chiefs. I doubt they sweep the Chiefs. I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised even if they win. But and then it's going to be Sean Payton is the savior of the Broncos, and it's going to be that whole narrative, and it's just going to be so freaking annoying. So it'll probably happen. Yeah. So that's kind of my hot take, right? I don't know. Another thing is the Broncos always play the Chiefs to the wire. Like the Chiefs never just blow them out. The fact that they've won all those games is really crazy because they're all been very close games where Mahomes has had to have miraculous comebacks in the fourth quarter. And the Chiefs have just played the Broncos really close because they decide to suck it up and then pull it out in the end, right? So as long as we're winning, it's great. But it's not like that we have just completely blown them out every single game. So yeah, the opportunity is definitely there. We'll see what happens, but it's one of those things where it's just like it's got to happen eventually. Is it going to happen this year? We'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not a bad take.
Well, that wraps up the AFC predictions here. Let's go to the NFC predictions. And so we'll start it off right with the NFC North.
NFC North. All right. So we've got Minnesota we're going to start with. And Minnesota's first loss is going to be week 2 versus the Eagles. They blew them out last year. They're going to blow them out again this year. You know, Kirk Cousins doesn't play well against good teams. It's a recipe for disaster for Minnesota, and they know it. So then we can go up to Chicago, and their first loss is going to come week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. The Bears, Aaron Rodgers owned the Packers, and I think he's just going to pass that ownership down to Jordan Love, right? As bad as the Bears are, or bad as the Packers might be this season, the Bears are still worse. So that brings us to the Green Bay Packers, and I think our first loss is going to be week 7 against the Broncos. Seems really late, but we also have a very early bye week, so that's really only 5 games against easier opponents in favorable matchups. And then you get to Detroit, and I think their first loss, they've got the worst draw of the schedule. They're got to play the reigning Super Bowl champions week 1. That's an L for them.
Nice. So I've got the Vikings week 2 at the Eagles as well. Rematch of last year, same result. Vikings are frauds.
Yes.
Lions, obviously week 1 at the Chiefs. I love this game for a kickoff, but the Lions just, to go in there, especially when they drop that Super Bowl banner, primetime in Arrowhead, that's just a tough ask for any team, right? Tough ask for any team. And the Lions are in the up and up. I don't want to overlook them, but it's a tough one for the Lions.
Yeah.
Bears, I've got losing week 3 at the Chiefs.
Oh, no.
I think the Bears are going to start off on a hot win streak, and it's going to be kind of the talk of the league for a while. Then the Chiefs are going to shut them up, which means that the Packers take the L week 1 against the Bears. This might be my hot take of the year because I think the Packers are still going to be good with Love, but the ownership of the Bears, I think, is over. That's not to say they'll get swept. I think they'll probably split it 1-1. But I think the Bears are going to be not great, but sneaky good a couple of games here and might surprise some people. And the Packers are a well-coached team, right? Matt LaFleur is going to have them ready. I'm not worried about them, but it's just one of those things where, like, the Bears were sneaky good. They beat the 49ers week 1 last year. I didn't see that coming. So they have kind of that sneakiness in them where they can kind of sneak up on you.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking them to win week 1 against the Packers.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that. I don't think it'll happen, but I'm not mad about that.
All righty. NFC East. I almost said least out of habit, but it's not the least anymore. The NFC East.
All right. We'll just start with Washington for some reason. The Commanders' first loss will be week 2 against the Broncos. I don't think Washington's going to be a very great team, and they've got to play that really good defense with PS2 leading the way. Then we're going to go to the New York Giants, and I think their first loss is going to be week 1 against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Speaking of the Cowboys, I think their first loss is going to be week 2 it's in the Cowboy Stadium. Aaron Rodgers has never never lost a game in AT&T. He actually even won the Super Bowl in that stadium. He's not going to come in there now and drop a game. And then that leaves us with the NFC winners champions, and that their first loss will be week 6 against Aaron Rodgers led Jets.
Interesting. Okay, so I've got Giants, same week 1 versus Cowboys. I think the Giants are also frauds. Cowboys, same thing. I've got week 2 versus the Jets. This is literally my notes here. I want to read it because you'll like it. Jets defense stacks up really well against the Cowboys, so no matter if Jets get off to a slow start, I think they win this game. Plus, we all know Rodgers' history at Jerry World.
Yes.
That's right there, right in my notes, baby. I'm
Right
with
there.
you. The Redskins or the Blues,
Commanders.
what are they? The Commanders. Did you see that they might actually have to change their name again because some
I
copyright
seen that.
issue?
Yeah. Who doesn't get a trademark for a national football team?
I don't know. Anyway, the team that resides in the Washington, D.C. area, week 2 at Denver. It's weird. I mean, they're not much to talk about. I don't know anybody talking about the Commanders. Like, the only reason they were being talked about was that brief time when Eric Bieniemy was hired as their offensive coordinator, and so they were in that kind of news cycle. Other than that, I haven't heard them mentioned by anybody anywhere at all. Like, I'm not even sure if they're actually an actual NFL team right now. So I have no idea what to expect from them, but I don't expect them to be good.
No.
And then the Eagles, I've got them going on another hot streak there, but losing that Super Bowl rematch week 11 at Kansas City.
Wow.
So we'll see if they have a Super Bowl hangover. But they kept a lot of the core pieces. They've added some additional pieces. I like what they did in the draft in this offseason so far. They don't play too many competitive teams. I mean, they have the Jets, Cowboys, and Dolphins within the first 10 weeks. So definitely losable games, but definitely winnable games as well. So, and I think they'll be favored in all 3 of those. So I would take them there. But I think, this going up to the Chiefs, just because it's at Kansas City. If it was in Philly, I think I would probably say Eagles would win that one. But because it's at Kansas City, not all of Arrowhead obviously was able to go to that Super Bowl game in Arizona.
Yeah.
Just not feasible. And so this is going to be the Super Bowl. The midseason Super Bowl is going to be that game. Monday night at Kansas City is going to be electric. And it's
crazy.
The Eagles can do it. We saw them do it. But it's just I just got to go with the Chiefs on that one.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Very, very.
Alrighty, let's do the NFC South.
NFC South. So starting with Tampa Bay, I think their first loss comes week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. Moving to Carolina, I think their first loss is week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm a little bit higher on the Falcons than a lot of teams. I actually think I might pick them to win this division, even though they made some weird choices in the draft. And rookie quarterbacks in the first start of their rookie season tend not to do so well in wins. Now, they do pretty well, in stats and stuff, but it doesn't equal wins until about their halfway through of their rookie season sophomore year. So I think Bryce Young, he's better than Desmond Ridder, and I like the Carolina roster around him. I just think it's too much to overcome. And then speaking of Atlanta, I think their first loss comes week 2 against the Green Bay Packers. And then finishing out, I can't remember, the Saints. Finishing out with the Saints, I've got, where is Saints? I can't even think. Oh, week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. So both those 2 teams lose to Jordan Love's led Green Bay Packers.
Feeling the love in the NFC South.
Yes.
What are the odds that the NFC South and the AFC South are both the respective worst divisions in the league? Kind of weird how that worked out.
Yeah, that is.
The South will rise again. Oh, great. We just got canceled. I didn't mean it like that. Anyway, the New Orleans Saints, week 3 at Packers. I agree with you. I don't think the Saints are going to be good enough to win here. I don't mind necessarily the Saints, but I don't think they'll be good enough to go into Lambeau Field. Buccaneers, same thing, losing week 1 against the Vikings. Um, Falcons, week 1 versus Panthers. They're going to take the L.
Okay.
This is something I debated back and forth as well. I think Bryce is the real deal, dude. I feel so confident in him as a quarterback in this league that week 1's not going to phase him. He's going to be able to go in, and the Falcons did not get better on defense. They did not get better on defense. And so having the whole offseason to prepare, I love the supporting cast around Bryce and just who he is as a player, who he is as a quarterback. I think he's just going to go out there and wow us all. And then many people are going to be surprised, but not me because I'm calling it now. Bryce freaking Young will get the win in week 1. And he's going to put the league on notice. Heard it here.
It could happen.
And then Panthers, then they'll take the loss week 2 versus the Saints. And that is just because I think the Saints have the best defense in that division. And so I think, as much as I love Bryce, I think obviously there will be growing pains. And so I think that the Saints defense will probably give him some fits there as he's trying to still get acclimated to the league. Falcons won't be a problem, but Saints might be a little bit of a problem. I think that'll be a close one, but Panthers will get their first loss in week 2.
I could see that. I could very much see that. Like I said, I think I'm just a little bit higher on the Falcons than everyone. I think the Falcons might be a sneaky 10-win team. So
sneaky. I mean, they didn't really get blown out too much last year. I mean, that whole division that was in it at the very end, like the last 3 games of the season, it was anybody's game. So So I mean, it could definitely happen.
Wild division.
Especially because they're paired up against the AFC South, right? That's the division pair up. So I mean,
I believe so.
It's right there. You got bad on bad. Like who's going to be the worst out of the two, right? Got to be someone. Let's go to the NFC West. So we're going out west. What you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Arizona, who I think is going to be the worst team in football this year with no Kyler Murray, all of the dysfunction. Even they couldn't even roll out their jerseys right? They just rolled out jerseys that they just kind of painted with one color, whatever. But I think they'll lose week 1 to the Commanders. Then we're rolling with San Francisco, who I think is on the other end of that. I think San Francisco might be one of the better teams. And I think their first loss comes week 10 versus the Jags. I'm like Trevor Lawrence. I think the Jags give them a little trouble. Both sides of the ball, Jags run that heavy bear defensive front where they have like 8 guys in the box that will limit the run game for Christian McCaffrey and maybe Trey Lance. I think he would be the starter. So I think that's the loss I have there. Go Seattle. I think Seattle's on the up and up, but I think they're not up enough to beat the Bengals week 6. And then finishing out with the LA Rams, I think they take the loss week 1 against the Seahawks. They are in misery for a couple years now. They mortgaged everything for that one Super Bowl, and now it's time to pay for it.
Yep, I agree. We'll stay there with the Rams. Week 1 versus the Seahawks. They do not have a defense. Okay, Aaron Donald is not a defense. Okay, they do not have a defense. Even with Stafford and Kupp coming back healthy. They don't have a defense. They're gonna struggle this season to win games. The Seahawks, I've got the same thing. Week 6 at the Bengals. I mean, Seahawks are good. I'm really excited for them this season, but definitely not enough to contend against an actual Super Bowl contender in the Bengals. The 49ers, I have them losing to the Bengals in Week 8. I think this is a potential Super Bowl matchup, and so in this case, give me the better quarterback. And we're not sure who's going to be the quarterback week 8 for the 49ers. But I know Joe Burrow is on the other side. And I would take him over anybody else in the league minus Patrick Mahomes. So give me the best quarterback in that matchup. And then Cardinals, week 1 versus the Commanders. The Commanders fans will get lucky because they get this matchup week 1 so they can celebrate for a week before their season goes to crap. But Cardinals are just going to start off in the crap hole again. This year with losing week 1 and probably losing the rest of them.
Yeah. It's hard to find a game they could win. Maybe against the Rams again. Though that team's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect a team to go undefeated and losing. Well, how would you say? How would you say?
Yeah.
To go 0-18 or 0-17 or whatever. I wouldn't
0-17.
expect a team to go winless,
No.
right? They'll at least be able to win one game or here. It's just going to be tough. That would have to be a whole prediction segment on its own, is predicting when the Cardinals get their first win. Maybe we'll do that. But sorry, Cardinals fans, it's gonna be a rough year.
It's gonna be rough. You got Kyler coming back next year, though.
He'll come back. I wonder if Kyler, depending on when he's going to be able to come back healthy, if he's just gonna sit out the rest of the season. I mean, if they're already,
I think I would.
If there's no point, I just don't even know if there's a point of him getting him out there. Like, get him fully healthy, give him a whole year off of football, and then back in the saddle, the following year to go after it. But I just don't know if you risk it when you're paying. Oh, that could be freaking wild, dude.
Yes.
That could be freaking wild.
So,
alrighty. Well, that wraps up our predictions for which team gets the first loss. Let us know in the comments your predictions of when these teams will get their first loss.